Where we last left off, the Crusader and Saracen forces were about to meet at the Battle of Arsuf. Richard's main objective was to head south and take Jaffa, which was a vital port and foothold for Saladin. Saladin and Richard met with equal forces of roughly 20,000 men. However, these two armies were composed of very different troop types. Remember, I mentioned that Richard was marching southward toward Jaffa. Saladin spotted this a ways after it already started, the southward march, and he had to catch up with his men, and in order to do that, almost all of Saladin's forces were mounted. The Crusader army was a mix of mounted and foot soldiers. Being cognizant of what had transpired from Hatin's rigorous pacing and tactics that led up to the slaughter, Richard only marched his men in the mornings, and during the heat of the day they rested. He also took lots of stops at every water source along the way to Jaffa. Also, while en route, he kept a very tight discipline on the formation. The troops as a whole remained in a column formation, with the sea to the army's right. Additionally, he guarded the sides of the column formation with infantrymen, who could deal with a flanking attempt from mounted soldiers. For a while, Saladin harassed Richard's forces as best he could with intermittent attacks from archers or light skirmishers to keep them on their toes. These weren't serious offensives, but they were intended to probe and irritate the Crusader forces. In spite of this, the Crusaders held a very tight leash on the formation. They never broke their column. Finally, on September 7th, 1191, the Crusader forces fell under heavy attack from volleys of arrows and javelins. Knowing that Saladin wanted their formation to break into disarray, Richard ordered repeatedly for his men to maintain the column formation. Garnier de Nobles, Grand Master of the Hospitallers, pestered Richard incessantly for permission to charge the archers. Once again, Richard told them to stay put and not move. As the volleys continued, impatience boiled over for Garnier, and ultimately he broke formation. Now, this was a terrible blunder about 99% of the time. However, this was the 1% where it actually panned out. Just as he started this charge, as dumb luck would have it, Saladin's archers were in the middle of dismounting so that they could fire more accurately. They saw that the Crusaders were just holding tight and not budging, so they were going to take advantage of it. And bear in mind the time, composure, and strength required to knock an arrow, fire the bow with some accuracy, and compare that to a speed of a charging group of knights on horseback, and tack on a little variable of panic when you see them coming right for you, and you've got yourself a line of sitting ducks on foot. Tacticians would refer to this as being caught with your pants down, I do believe. In response to the Hospitallers breaking rank, Richard begrudgingly ordered the rest of the Crusaders to follow. From there, things avalanched in favor of the Crusaders. Saladin was caught entirely off guard in the blink of an eye from this sudden change, since up until this point the Crusaders were just sitting down, holding tight, and waiting for the Saracens to come to them. His formation was in no way prepared to handle such a crazy yet lucky maneuver such as this charge, and they more or less were trampled as a result. Estimates place Crusader losses at 700. And bear in mind that most of that was probably when they were holding tight in the column formation. They were just taking blows. The Saracens ended up with 10 times that many dead. Amid these 7,000 Saracens, there were 32 emirs or princes that were slain. Needless to say, this was a staggering loss for Saladin. Not only had he lost badly to Richard's forces, he also lost Jaffa, which was a very vital foothold for their offensive. With Jaffa now serving as his base of operations, Richard asked Conrad of Montferrat to come join him on his campaign, which he was hoping to go and take Ascalon back next. Now, knowing that Richard was allied with Guy and his forces, Conrad opposed this rather fervently, enough to the point that he copied an earlier tactic that Raymond of Tripoli made use of. Conrad was actually in talks with Saladin, fearing that Guy, now with the upper hand on manpower, would convince Richard to force Conrad out of Tyre. In early 1192, however, Richard was forced to declare Conrad as the king of Jerusalem as the result of an election held by nobles within the kingdom. Actually, when it came to that election, Guy didn't get a single vote, so, I guess his face sure was red, but he was later on given an honorable mention prize, so to speak, so that he'd stay quiet. Not too long after this, the island of Cyprus was sold on the cheap by Richard to Guy. So I guess in the end, Guy got a pretty big backyard out of the deal. Oh yeah, something else. Once Guy owned Cyprus, he demanded to maintain a title of king. Yeah, quite the modest fella, that guy. Now, skipping ahead a bit, across the winter of 1191 to 1192, the Saracens and Crusaders attempted negotiations, but nothing materialized. However, in 1192, Richard was brought news that his brother John was attempting to usurp the throne in his absence, and he realized that he'd need to withdraw in order to set things straight in England. If you've ever seen a Robin Hood movie or something of the sort where you had that Prince John abusing things, usually it ended with King Richard returning from the Crusades, and that is what this is referring to. As Richard began to withdraw from the Levant, Saladin laid siege to Jaffa, hoping to retake it. Once again, it was a very vital position, and taking it back was pivotal for an offensive by the Saracens in the Levant. Richard was about to leave by boat through Acre, and he caught wind of this and then sailed southward, and then made a rather unconventional amphibious landing inside of Jaffa. Following a skirmish, he was able to push the Saracens back out of Jaffa just before they were about to claim the final Crusader foothold within the city. In the aftermath of retaking Jaffa, the Third Crusade came to a close. The Third Crusade itself is seen as a loss for the Crusaders due to the fact that they could not retake Jerusalem. However, they had a strong grasp on the settlements along the Levant's coast. The two forces by this point, though, were battle-weary and ended up backing down from butting heads again for quite some time. The VIPs of the Crusade, I'm afraid, didn't have much luck following the end of it. In 1193, Saladin died from yellow fever. As a final act of goodwill, he donated almost all of his wealth to charity. Conrad was named king in April of 1192, but died not too long thereafter. Almost a week after his death, Richard named his own nephew, Henry II of Champagne, as king of Jerusalem. Henry also married Conrad's pregnant widow, Isabella. Richard arrived in England in 1194, but he died in 1199 after being struck in the left side of his chest with a crossbow bolt. Now, let's wrap this up. Moving back to Conrad being named King of Jerusalem. Just 4 days after he won the election, he was walking back home at night, accompanied by his bodyguards. While en route, he was suddenly attacked by 2 men who stabbed him in the side and the back 2 or more times. These men were followers of an order that followed an unconventional yet effective method of causing turmoil by surgically slaying the pillars of society. Conrad was killed on April 28, 1192, by 2 members of the Assassins. One of the 2 assassins were killed on the spot, while the second was taken captive, and, before dying from torture, he claimed that King Richard had masterminded the death of Conrad. Thus, things got rather twisted, so to speak. In December of 1192, on his way out of the Holy Land, King Richard was spotted and arrested. He was accused of arranging the murder of Conrad, but Richard wrote to the Grand Master of the Assassins of the time, Rashid al-Din Sinan. A response letter came from Sinan that said in 1191, Conrad captured an assassin's ship that was docked in Tyre for shelter. He supposedly killed the captain, imprisoned the crew, and stripped the vessel of its valuables. Sinan demanded that Conrad release the crew and return what was stolen, but he refused. At that point, Sinan said that Conrad was marked for death. This is what the letter claimed. However, there were a lot of issues with this letter. Firstly, Sinan was later proven to have been dead by this point. He died in 1192, and Richard was detained at the very end of the year in December. The dates just don't match up. Also, the assassins had almost no involvement in shipping goods by sea. The two of these facts, combined with others, lead many to believe that the assassin letter was a forgery. So, you have a bit of a whodunit history, so to speak. Who was the mastermind behind the assassination of King Conrad? Was it Richard, for various reasons? Maybe Henry of Champagne, his nephew, since he was the next logical choice for the throne? Or maybe it was Humphrey, Isabella's first husband, in revenge for stealing his wife. Maybe, quote and unquote, King Guy was doing this in return for all the trouble he caused him in life. Or maybe the assassin order's successor to Sinan just wanted to mess with a few heads. Alternatively, maybe Saladin put aside his strife with the assassins in order to kill one of the figureheads of the Crusaders. Regardless, the timing, cause, effects, and the fast replacement and marriage of Henry to Isabella, the list goes on. Most everything about this tied rather heavily into political dealings on the Crusader side of things. Lots of historians go along with that mindset, thinking this was approved by a Crusader who benefited. Or is that not the whole picture? So, what do you guys think?
What happened here? Where is everyone?
Gone to see the Master.
Was it the Templars? Did they attack again?
They walk the path
What path? What are you talking about?
towards the light.
Speak sense.
There is only what the Master shows us. This is the truth.
You've lost your mind.
You too will walk the path, or you will perish. So the Master commands.
It was Al-Mualim, wasn't it? What's he done to you?
Praise be to the Master, for he has led us to the light.
Huh. Well, it seems something is amiss here. Well, let's just make our way towards the fort and see what's going on.
The will of the Master must be obeyed.
Looks like I'm surrounded. No, he's not snapping out of it. Okay.
He is the light. He is the way.
And it seems that Al-Mualim has reduced the townfolk to zombies, just about. And they aren't getting better. Well,
He is the light. He is the way.
at least we're not running any fights or combat or anything like that. Kind of have enough of it by this point. Wait a second. Yep. Guess what time it is, boys and girls? And here we go. Fighting a bunch of these rather tricky assassin goons. Last time I had a run-in was very, very early on when I took out Jamal. And now we've got a few more tricks up our sleeve. It seems the sword is earning its keep quite nicely. You might ask why I'm not cutting this out, but, well, we're kind of nearing the very end, and this isn't a terribly long fight. I figure may as well give it a bit of a send-off. Very grabby, very grabby. I've been doing pretty well so far, but here it comes. My timing hit a slump. Or a valley, I guess would be more descriptive. Okay, it's punching time. Goddamn right. Okay, back to the sword. Gotta play it safe.
For the light! For the master!
Not walk the path.
Oh shit. I don't like this at all. Well, let's see. Relocate. Ooh, a ladder. Well, let's make this a little more interesting. Hey, a flag. And we have a volunteer. Nah, I'm doing the grabbing up here, Chauncey. There we go. That's 2 guards down at once. And 3. What's going on?
Altair! Up here!
He glitched the guards to death. Fantastic. Where's the guy who was stuck on the ladder? Oh well. Oh. This must be him down here. Well, at least that's over with.
You picked a fine time to arrive.
So it seems.
Guard yourself well, friend. Al-Mualim has betrayed us.
Yes. Betrayed his Templar allies as well.
How do you know?
After we spoke, I returned to the ruins beneath Solomon's temple. Robert had kept a journal, filled its pages with revelations. What I read there broke my heart. But it also opened my eyes. You were right, Altair. All along our master has used us. We were not meant to save the Holy Land, but deliver it to him. He must be stopped.
Be careful, Malik. What he's done to the others, he'll do to us given the chance. You must stay far from him.
What would you propose? My blade arm is still strong and my men remain my own. It would be a mistake not to use us.
Distract these thralls, then. Assault the fortress from behind. If you can draw their attention away from me, I might reach Al-Mualim.
I will do as you ask, Dai.
The men we face, their minds are not their own. If you can avoid killing them.
Yes. Though he has betrayed the tenets of the Creed, it does not mean we must as well. I'll do what I can.
It's all I ask. Safety and peace, my friend.
Your presence here will deliver us both.
Well, let's see how long it takes him to mount a distraction when we're heading straight inside the gate right here. Well. And it seems that distraction worked pretty well, because I do not see any guards. That was pretty quick of him. Uh-oh. What's that? People.
There are so many innocents. I must be careful not to harm them.
Wait. No. I've got to be extra careful. Really gentle. There we go. And excuse me. And he left the back door open. Well, let's check out here first. Seems like the most logical place for him to be hiding. Yep. Okay, guys. Let's wrap this up.
No! What's happening?
So, the student returns.
I've never been one to run.
Never been one to listen either.
I still live because of it.
What will I do with you?
Let me go.
Oh, Altair. I hear the hatred in your voice. Feel its heat. Let you go? That would be unwise.
Why are you doing this?
I found proof
Proof of what?
that nothing is true, and everything is permitted. Come, destroy the betrayer. Send him from this world.
Oh, Jesus. Ghosts. Well, they start you in a pretty precarious position, so your best bet, at least from what I tried, was to get away, and I tried to get a good ways off and get some throwing knives off in previous runs, but I ended up stuck here on this one. Dope. And you might not notice it immediately, but these guys, as we kill them, you see they change into actual assassin soldiers. So he's basically using the apple to make these guys look like the folks we killed before, when they're actually just like the guys we killed outside. And things ain't looking too hot. Whew.
Face me! Or are you afraid?
I have stood before 1,000 men, all of them superior to you, and all of them dead, by my hand. I am not afraid.
Prove it.
What could I possibly fear? Look at the power I command.
This part. Fuck this part. So goddamn annoying. Okay, this right here, his doubles, well, they absolutely kick my ass so many times. And as you'll notice, he's very grabby. Very grabby. And with this in mind, and the fact that grabbing does a bit of damage, since he's being cheap and teaming up on me, I decide to be cheap and move into a corner very, very slowly, and kept on countering until it ends. Best offense is a good defense.
Have you any final words?
You lied to me. Called Robert's goal foul when all along it was yours as well.
I've never been much good at sharing.
You won't succeed. Others will find the strength to stand against you.
And this is why, so long as men maintain free will, there can be no peace.
I killed the last man who spoke as such.
Bold words, boy. But just words.
Then let me go. I'll put words into action. Tell me, Master, why did you not make me like the other assassins? Why allow me to retain my mind?
Who you are and what you do are twined too tight together. To rob you of one would have deprived me of the other. And those Templars had to die. But the truth is, I did try. In my study, when I showed you the treasure. But you are not like the others. You saw through the illusion.
Illusion?
That's all it's ever done. This Templar treasure, this piece of Eden, this word of God. Do you understand now? The Red Sea was never parted. Water never turned to wine. It was not the machinations of Iris that spawned the Trojan War, but this! Illusions! All of them!
What you plan is no less an illusion. To force men to follow you against their will.
Is it any less real than the phantoms the Saracens and Crusaders follow now? Those craven gods who retreat from this world that men might slaughter one another in their names? They live amongst an illusion already. I'm simply giving them another. One that demands less blood.
At least they choose these phantoms.
Or do they? Aside from the occasional convert or heretic?
It isn't right.
And now logic has left you. In its place, you embrace emotion. I am disappointed.
What's to be done then?
You will not follow me, and I cannot compel you.
And you refuse to give up this evil scheme.
It seems then we are at an impasse.
No, we are at an end.
I will miss you, Altair. You were my very best student. Blind, Altair. Blind is all you've ever been. All you'll ever be.
This boss fight is, it's a little strange. You notice in the top left, my health completely vanished, and right now I am right at the edge of desynchronizing. So basically one hit means you're instantly dead, but if you approach him and you're engaged with your sword out, you get your health back. But with the hidden blade, it won't let you do that. So you just draw your sword and move closer, but he keeps wanting to resheath the sword, so it really gets kind of irritating.
My blade sees for me, it cuts through the darkness.
And it worked out that time. So just gotta get close, draw the sword, and lock on so you can actually get health back. I don't know why it does that, but whatever. So you notice he keeps warping around. We just have to hit him a few times, and then it gets to the point where we can actually kill him. So, shouldn't be much longer. It looks like he's over this way now. Dope. Okay, now I'm pissed. Bam.
Impossible. The student does not defeat the teacher.
الشيء واقع مطلق بل كل ممكن.
So it seems. You have won then. Go and claim your prize.
You held fire in your hand, old man. It should have been destroyed.
Destroy the only thing capable of ending the Crusades and creating true peace? Never.
Then I will.
We'll see about that. I applied my heart to know wisdom, and to know madness and folly. I perceived that this also was a chasing after wind, for in much wisdom is much grief. And he that increaseth knowledge, increaseth sorrow. Destroy it! Destroy it as you said you would.
I can't.
Yes, you can, Altair. But you won't. We've got it.
What the hell was that?
Well?
We've got the map.
How many?
At least half a dozen.
We don't need them all.
We should assume some amount of decay. I can't imagine they'll all still be functioning. At least 2 appear to reside on land masses that no longer exist.
We'll dispatch teams to each site and determine viability. We only need 1, after all.
What about the rest?
Collect them. Let's not leave anything to chance. Last thing we need is some damn survivor making trouble for us in the new world.
And the assassin?
We have what we need. Kill him.
Wait. You know how these things work. I doubt we'll be able to walk right in.
What's your point?
We might need him. His memories. I'd recommend we hold him until we have confirmation that there aren't any surprises waiting for us at the sites.
This is a waste of time.
You said it yourself. We shouldn't leave anything to chance.
Very well. Ensure we have no further need of him, then kill him.
Fine. Stop undermining my authority!
I just saved your ass.
Let's go. We've got a lot of work to do. Don't get too comfortable, Mr. Miles. We'll be back for you soon enough.
What the hell is that?
Well, I guess that's all she wrote, and can't use a computer. There's a achievement, oh boy, oh boy. Can't use Vidic's computer either. So I guess the only thing left to do is to just, retire, I suppose. Doop, 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 doo. Whoa. Hey. Eagle mode. Freaky.
Oh my god. It looks like... Is that blood? What the hell were they keeping here before me? And what happened to him? What does it mean, I wonder?
And that's all she wrote. But let's just go ahead and skip to the very end here. And there's something after it wraps up. We can wander around at our leisure, and we can actually look at Wally and Lucy's computers and check the email. Nothing in here. Let's take a closer look at the wall smearings in here. We are all books containing thousands of pages, and within each of them lies an irreparable truth. And some stuff about it looks like an eclipse pattern or something. A bunch of Asian writing, Asian characters. And some of it just doesn't make sense to me, period. Quetzalcoatl's hunger lies the answers. Res the answers? 130000. He entered the abyss and never returned. And there was also a chemical formula there. I think I saw zinc and carbon. Ooh. Boy, somebody's been going kind of hog wild here with the smearings. No idea. What's that? Buildings. China? Huh. There doesn't seem to be anything inside the conference room. We can look at the emails inside there, but there's nothing new. It's just the one we saw previously about the Philadelphia experiment and Tunguska and such. Ooh. And we got just a little bit left over here. And more crazy scribbling. Let's take a look at the computers. Nothing, nothing, nothing. Okay, Wally. Looking for September the 8th. Okay, here's one. Here's one from Lucy. So there you go. The previous fella, he had a bleeding effect, went a little too crazy, and started smearing blood everywhere. Of course, we saw what Vidic's take on Lucy's request was, since it was in the deleted box. But that's it for Assassin's Creed 1. Just got a little something extra to cover, and then that'll be that. Okay. So, what we need to go over real fast is to paraphrase the DS and PSP games. Neither game was exactly spectacular, but their story is tied into the series proper. I guess the proper term would be canonical. God, I never use that word. But anyhow, we won't be seeing much of Al in the sequel, but he's definitely he has a pivotal role in the whole series. First off, let's go over the DS game. The DS game, Assassin's Creed Altair's Chronicles, takes place in 1190, 1 year or so before the first game, and it largely revolves around Al's activity in Tyre and the nearby territories, just before he is actually made a master assassin. The headquarters at this point is at a place known as Alep. Alep, as you might recall, was mentioned by an informant in Damascus prior to Abul Nukud. Al-Mualim, who was Grand Master at this point, sends Al on a mission to track down something known as the Chalice. It's inferred to be a piece of Eden, although Al doesn't know about that by this point. And it's said to have the power to unite everyone beneath one flag or one faction. Basically, it sounds kind of like its power was similar to the apple. But anyhow, Al sets out and tracks down the Chalice's whereabouts. Now, before we get into that, let's jump through a few things that were referenced inside this first game for the PS3 that we just finished. Or PS3 and 360. Anyhow, firstly, there was the Ada person that was brought up by an informant, once again, prior to Abul Nukud. More recently, one of the emails in the previous episode made mention of a chalice, and it said that it may not have been an object at all, but a person. Well, Al comes across Ada, who he finds out is actually the chalice. Not only is it inferred that he somehow knew Ada prior to the events of the game, but she also informs him that the Assassin's Order's second-in-command, a man named Harash, has been bribed by the Templars to conspire against the Brotherhood. Al returns with Ada to Alep and engages in the previously mentioned assault at Alep, which was at the time populated with Harash and his underlings. After taking them out and killing Harash, Ada is kidnapped by Basilisk, who was the head Templar villain in the game. Al pursues Basilisk back to his ship at Tyre's port and kills him. Unfortunately, upon killing him, he finds that Ada was not, in fact, on the boat where Basilisk was. He sent her to another boat and led Al along as a decoy. Al finds that Ada is on another boat entirely, which left to an unknown location. The game ends on a rather depressing note, with Al shouting towards the other ship, "I will find you, Ada." This will be addressed in Assassin's Creed 2, although a bit indirectly. Now, it's pretty light on the plot or substance, but the PSP game, on the other hand, it's got much more meat to the story. I'm going to be cutting out a lot, and even still, there is a lot of ground to cover in spite of this. The intent was to bridge Assassin's Creed 1 and Assassin's Creed 2. It takes place after Al-Mualim was killed. Al is left as the ideal candidate to replace him as the Grand Master of the Brotherhood. The game opens with Al leading an assault on a Templar stronghold in Acre. In the aftermath of the battle, he finds Maria Thorpe and takes her captive. Maria Thorpe, as you might recall, was the woman who stood in as Robert's double in the Jerusalem assassination attempt. It's soon revealed that Robert treated Maria well, but his replacement downright despises her. It could be for a number of reasons. Maybe because she's a woman, maybe he sees her as a faithful of the old guy that he replaced, who could potentially cause trouble. Who knows? Regardless, he treated her very badly, but she was still faithful to him because, well, he was her commanding officer, so to speak. Al learns that the Templars are headed to Cyprus for some reason. By this point, Cyprus was Templar property. Maria warns Al that the Templars will stop at nothing to get the Apple of Eden back. The apple, of course, was still in Al's possession. Throughout the game, the memory blocks, or chapters, end with cutscenes of Al writing entries into his journal or codex. They cover various topics such as his philosophies, what he thinks of the apple, what he's wondering and what have you, and in the future, this codex and its entries will be of very great importance as a reference. Al sets out for Cyprus, keeping Maria in tow as a prisoner, but not too long after arriving, she escapes and warns the Templar Grand Master, Armand Bouchard, of the assassin presence. Bouchard suddenly grows suspicious of how she got away and survived the loss at Acre. He brands her as a traitor and throws her into prison as a result. Of course, Al followed her up to this point, and rather than pursuing Bouchard, he frees Maria, who swears that she will kill him and bring the apple to Bouchard to redeem herself. Unfortunately for her, though, Al says that he has hidden the apple, and she has no choice but to tag along. If she were to kill him, she'd never find it. In the following sequences, Al talks with her at great length about their clashing philosophies of the Templars and the Assassins. When he presses her on her opinion of the Templar approach in general, she seemed a bit reluctant to accept it, but she still believed the Templars were in the right more so than the Assassins. Following future events, Maria and local resistance members, who had been providing safe havens up to this point, are captured by the Templars. Al manages to free the resistance members from captivity, but finds that Maria has been taken captive by a man named Shalim, who is Armand Bouchard's right-hand man. Not too long thereafter, though, she escapes and Al loses track of her. Al later comes across her in disguise, though, dressed up as a consort. He follows her and infiltrates a Templar castle, finding her confronting Shalim's twin brother, Shahar. Previously, Al told her the Templars' master plan with the apple, and she was reluctant to accept it at face value. When she presses Shahar, asking him what the Templars do with the Apple of Eden, he tells her the flat-out truth, that they refuse to believe in individual freedom. This verifies Al's previous claim of the Templar intentions. Maria flees just as Shahar's twin brother Shalim comes into the room. The names are getting confusing, but long story short, Al kills them both round the spot. So that simplifies matters now. Now, previously in the game, Al had to assassinate some merchant who was of positive standing in the public eye as well as the resistance. He threatened to put a bounty on Al and Maria's heads. By this point, the Templars have essentially spread word that Al was the man behind the killing. The locals begin rioting, and they form lynch mobs to chase after Al. Additionally, the resistance has completely spurned him and refused to help him at this point. He ends up trapped in a corner with a mob before him and actually produces the Apple of Eden, which he had not hidden. It was actually on his person the whole time. He uses it, and it gives him just enough time to flee, leaving the crowd confused. Just as he's about to fall into an ambush, Maria comes to his aid, since she was watching him from afar. She then aids him in his escape from the district. She ends up getting separated from Al during a scuffle en route, but he follows her path into a secret passage, leading him to the secret he'd been hunting after in Cyprus all along, a secret Templar archive. Al then notices Maria is engaged in combat with Armand Bouchard, and intervenes just before Bouchard can finish her. Bouchard monologues, as villains tend to do, and mentions that the Templars were concerned about the English discovering the archives. They bought the island from King Richard through Guy of Lusignan, who was a Templar in the game's lore. The Templars had it under their control, but they were moving away from the region in general. And while Al was busy catching up to this point in the game, the archives were in the process of being emptied of the Templar knowledge and secrets. Unfortunately, Al was too late to stop them from salvaging what they could of their exploits in the Levant. Following a duel, Al mortally wounds Bouchard. Up till this point, in the ends of the chapters where it showed the cutscenes of Al writing in the Codex, it shows him struggling with the morals surrounding the apple. Is it evil? Should it be destroyed? Will he end up unintentionally using it for the wrong purposes? It is also shown that Al has no belief in God controlling the world, but rather thinks that madmen are at the wheel, and things are heading for a cliff. Bouchard tops off all of this with a claim that Al will eventually come to the same conclusion as the Templars. The apple must be used because people are self-destructive. During their battle, however, the archives begin to collapse. Al escapes with Maria, and on the docks of Lima Sol, they discuss what to do at this point. Maria says that knowing what the Templars have planned and what she's done, she can't return to England. She mentions traveling eastward toward India. Maria then counters, asking what Al has planned. Altair mentions how Al-Mualim's death and the events up till now had changed his perspective on things. His primary concern was the apple, though. He mentioned wanting to study it, though out of curiosity, in hopes of grasping what it is, maybe obtaining some knowledge and potentially finding out how it was made. Maria tells him that it would take more than one lifetime to fully study it, but Al responds with no, one lifetime should be enough. When she asks him where he plans on heading, he simply answers with one word: east. The final cutscene shows Al writing in his codex again, pondering man's place in the world and how the apple ties into it. Nearing the end of the cutscene, Maria is seen enter the room and leans over his shoulder to see what he's writing. In the near future, the two of them have at least 2 children, continuing his bloodline along. The order eventually spreads out around the Mediterranean, but in spite of the crushing defeat in the Third Crusade and its aftermath, the Templars were still left with a very comfortable, open place in society. The assassins weren't quite so fortunate. With this in mind, and predicting what could transpire in the future, Al makes mention in his codex that the Brotherhood has to go underground in order to survive in the future. Where does that leave us? Well, we'll get back to that in the sequel.